Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome back to the life of a virtual airline pilot. I want to start out today by giving a shout out to my neighbor Dawn. Dawn and I just had a wonderful conversation this morning, something that we're working on together. Dawn and I have become really good friends lately. Let me just tell you, if you ever happen to meet Dawn, his banana bread, fantastic. So shout out to my good friend, my brother Don next door. And part of the reason for that shout out is just to see if he's actually watching the videos, because he told me he's going to subscribe to the channel, so I want to see if he watches the video. And Don, throw a comment down there and just let us know how you're doing, brother. Alright, with all of that said, we flew up here to Denver on our last flight. What was it? It was from Chicago, right? Yep, Chicago to Denver. Now, I mentioned on that flight that somebody was asking if we'd make a trip up to Vancouver, CYVR, and I said I absolutely want to do that, but I didn't want to do it from Chicago because it was just too long of a flight. And too long of a flight in the sense that I just don't have enough time in the day to get the flight and the video all put in together. And that's really what it came down to. And so today we're going to make the flight from Denver up to Vancouver as promised. And it's still almost 1,000 miles. But we're also going to be doing something special and different. So we've been flying our Southwest 737, and I love that thing. PMDG did a wonderful job on it, not surprisingly. But we're going to be flying the 787 today. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, I remember the first flight we did in this thing, and it was a disaster. And you're right, it was. It was terrible. This aircraft was junk, to say it really, really, really nicely. It was terrible. It was terrible. I don't even know what was Asobo thinking. Whoever designed this aircraft initially, honestly, shame on them. I was so upset when I did that first flight. It drove me insane. But since then, in the same spirit of the fly-by-wire A320 and the salty 747, a group of folks have come together, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I just barely learned about this, surprisingly, and they've started this program. It's the 787 Heavy Division is what I believe it's called. Now, I promise you there is going to be a link in the description below. Go check it out, because while there's still a long way to go, it is 1,000 times better than the default was. And I mean that literally. Like, it is way better than the default was. So there's going to be a link down in the description. Go down there and check it out. If you like to fly the 787, you're going to start to have a love for it again. It's not going to be on the level of study level aircraft at this point. It's not even on the level that Quality Wings was at when they finally released their 787 after years. It's not at that level yet. But remember, this is a free add-on, and these folks are taking their time to make this default aircraft into a better aircraft, just like the fly-by-wire, just like the salty simulations. God bless you guys. What you're doing it warms my heart. It's fantastic, because it gives us the opportunity to fly some aircraft with a little quality to them that we just weren't able to do before. And so I'm super grateful for that. And with all of that said, what do you say we climb up into this pretty brand spanking new office and get to work? Welcome to the flight deck, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you've never seen the inside of a 787, well, here you go, because it definitely looks a lot like this. I was so excited when Quality Wings had originally released theirs. I think everybody was. It's such an amazing aircraft. And we're starting to see a lot of good features come into this one here, so I'm super excited about that. And so we're gonna dive right in. we're going to do the operational flight plan here real quickly, but before I want to do that, I've got realistic time set for the IRS alignment, so I'm just going to take care of that first. So we're going to hop all the way up here. You've got the IRSs, just flip them on, beautiful thing. Hop down here and go to your position initialization. We're going to just copy our current position. Now I can tell you if you type in KDEN here, it's going to be relatively close. Even if we put on our gate number, it should be spot on. I'm not doing that right now. Just going to go with the simple method right there, and that's going to start the alignment process, and we're going to let it do its thing there. Here you go, time to align. So 10 minutes. Now we know I can talk way longer than 10 minutes, so I'm not worried about how long it's going to take, but I did want to get it started right away so we didn't have to worry about it later, and that takes care of that. So let's jump up here and let me bring over my Sim Toolkit Pro here. There we go. I had to find it amongst all the windows that are open over here. And so here we go. So Denver to Vancouver, KDEN to CYVR. Now we'll grab the ATIS here once we get to that point, but just to keep in the habit of doing it, here's the METAR Win 200 at 19. We'll see how close that is between the Sim and Sim Toolkit Pro. Pull up the flight plan here. So we're looking at air distance of 966 nautical miles. That's assuming that we go straight from runway to runway. If anything changes, obviously that could get a little longer. So it's still a pretty long flight. That's a good long flight. It's gonna be about 3 hours. This plane does move pretty quick, so I'm super stoked about it. We've got our estimated takeoff weight, landing weight, zero fuel weight here. We'll be using those in a little bit. Block fuel, we're looking at 39,831 pounds, which is not a lot. Quick question for those of you from Canada, because I know we got a few of you on here. I did just notice this is cost index of 15. Just so you know, with this this heavy division mod, the cost index is between 0 and 1,000, I think. So we'll definitely do a slightly higher cost index, and so of course we'll raise our fuel a little bit as well. But my quick question for you guys is, do you guys use standard or metric up in Canada? I actually don't know. I'm pretty sure it's metric. In fact, I'm almost positive it's metric, but I'm asking for a friend. Okay, so just let me know. But either way, we're going to be doing pounds and inches HG on here, all that good stuff. So and I'm just waiting for some feedback from you guys. Remember, I do record my videos a little in advance, so there's a couple videos that have already been recorded but not posted yet as of the time of this recording. So there may be a little delay if I get a lot of feedback that says you guys do want to see me transition back and forth. So okay, enough about that. So we're looking at, again, block fuel of 39,831. Presently runway 8 and DDIRTH for our departure. And then coming down here, our times aren't even close. I didn't even bother setting the time, to be honest with you. It's sometime in the middle of the day. That's what we're going to go with. So pressing on here. We did fill up the packs, 390 packs for this flight. Cargo is 23,400 pounds. Payload total is 91,600 pounds with zero fuel weight, 392.8 thousand pounds, which is pretty close to our max. Not at our max. Still got some room to work with, but actually quite surprised at how little fuel we need for such a heavy load in a long flight. But there you have it. And so that's the basics of it. So that's what we're going to be looking at here. And I think that's all we need for our flight plan there. I have pulled up Navigraph here, as I usually do. Started popping some charts down here. So here's Denver's ground chart here. And we'll start getting into all this, of course, when we do our taxi and departure briefings, which we're not ready for yet. So what do you say we climb back into the flight deck here and get started on this pre-flight? All right, so just real quick, the checklist that I'm using, I've got two copies of it. I've got this digital copy here, and then I've got a hard copy of the exact same thing because I already had a hard copy of this. So I'll probably be reading from the hard copy. Let me know if you guys want to see me dragging this over here each time we're going through the checklist, or if you want to see these as pop-ups, because I can cut these out, make pictures, and pop them up in the video so you can see the checklist as I read it, or something like that. Just let me know down in the comments the way that you guys like to see that best. That adds to the realism but maintains some of that entertainment value, etc., etc., right? Okay, so our pre-flight park and brake should be set already as we climbed into the aircraft, and they are down there. Battery switch is obviously on. The APU generator is off. The master knob is off. If you're wondering, this is APU right here. Here's the APU gens. Now, one thing I did notice, and we'll see this when we start the APU, is if I come down here and I click on Systems, and then let me just zoom it in for you and go to status. The APU, even when I start it, it doesn't show that the APU is running, and nothing changes on the overhead either until I just turn these on. So a little bit frustrating there, but after some trial and error, I realized that it was running. So there we have it. External power is currently on. The landing gear is obviously down, otherwise we'd be sitting a little lower. Flap lever is in the up position. This is all just pre-flight. It's kind of a flow slash checklist. Speed brake lever is in the retracted position. Engine fuel control switches are down, which is the cutoff position. Fuel pump switches are all off. That means they're all dark up here, which they are, and they all show the pressure light. Engine instruments checked. Anti-ice controls are all on auto. Window heating as required. I don't think we can actually do anything. Now there's two different views for this overhead. There's this view and this view. So try to bounce back and forth between the two of those. Beacon light can be on. Nav light doesn't need to be on. But there we go. It's one of those. Because it's a default aircraft, some of them are on switches and some of them are not. So window heats, I think it's actually up here on this one. Yeah, there it is. So window heats are all on. You can't do anything with those anyway. Altitude setting, I'm assuming that's referring to the altimeter probably. And it says set, but we haven't set that yet. We have our IFR clearance. Fuel quantity, we haven't done fuel quantity yet, so let's go down here. So you can't change fuel in the aircraft itself. We have to use the default method, just like we do in, like, say, the Salty 747 and so on. We need to use the default for now. So let me just pull up my load sheet over here. Block fuel, again, it says, I'm still pretty surprised at that, but it says 39,831 pounds. So, I don't know how that's going to play out accuracy-wise. 39,000, what are we at right now? We're at 111. I mean, this thing at max fuel holds 223,000 pounds of fuel. To be fair, now this is 787-10. It does have a really long range. So I'm going to, as always, I'm going to have just a little bit extra in there. So 39,000, I just want a couple thousand extra, so we'll just, you know, as close as we can get to 41. So 42,498, that's only a little bit more than it calls for, so I'm going to stick with that. And then our, where's it at over here? Okay, so we've got packs. But we're just going to do it as the payload, right? Yeah, the payload. So the total payload, if I can talk, is 91,600 pounds. So looking down here, here's our payloads only at 30,000. We need to be 91,600. So let's crank that up. That's as close as we're going to get, because that's 43, and at 42, it's at 90,000. So it's going to be 43%. And there we go. And we're going to see how all that works out for us. So that's how we're going to take care of loading the fuel. The beacon light is on. You saw me playing with those. We're still waiting for the alignment. We got about a minute and a half to go. I'm going to break away for just a second. We're going to come back. We're going to jump into our before start flows, setting up the FMC, all of that good stuff. Alrighty, so with our pre-flight done, what we need to do now is take care of setting up the FMC. That's this guy down here. It's both push button and using the functions over here. I don't know what you call this, the control pad or something like that. But either way, if it's blue like this, you can't do anything on it. If it's gray like that, you should be able to. And so we're going to dive right into our route. Now, you can, with the 787 Heavy Division modification, you can actually link your sim brief to this, and there are some tutorial videos out there on how to do that. Really easy to look up. Just look up how to link my sim brief to the 787 Heavy Division mod, and you'll find it on YouTube. So I'm not going to go into that, but what you can do once you've done that is you can route request just like you can from the Salty 747, and it appears, and I haven't done it before, but you can also do it from the fly-by-wire A320, so something to keep in mind. So there you go, click on it. I had to, once I had it set up, I had to restart the sim in order to get it to work. So there you go. So we're gonna, now the flight number is wrong on this. It did this, excuse me, did this to me last time. The flight number, hold on, I gotta go over here and find it now. Oh my goodness, come on. Flight number is, it should be like 8711, I think. There it is, ACA 8711. So let's put that in there real quick. ACA. Now, ACA 8711, is, believe it or not, is a CRJ 900 route. That it's an actual route. Jazz Air. So Jazz Air is a sort of like a commuter version of Air Canada. So it is an actual route. But it's not flown in a 787. And then, you know, it's the usual for a Boeing setup. You've got, you know, all your different information in there. Pretty straightforward stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So we'll activate and execute. And then you got performance initialization. Now, here's where we want to make sure that we're matching up with our load sheet. So zero fuel weight should be 392,827. Now, this is not probably, it's 391.5, so it's pretty close actually. The cost index is going, we're going to go with, believe it or not, 500 on the cost index. That's basically 50%. And that's what we're just going to go with. So fuel is at 42.5. We put that in ourselves. The reserves, now I'm not 100% positive on this. If I try to put in 5,000, it's going to tell me that it's a bad format or invalid entry. Right, so I think if I put 5.0, because it'll accept that, I think that means 5,000 pounds, but because it says 5.0 pounds, it's a little confusing to me, to be quite honest with you. So there is no like loading packs and stuff like that on here. You just have to go with essentially your zero fuel weight, which constitutes the totality of your payload and all of that stuff, right? Just real quick, if you click on heavy, you've got, oh wait, you do have payload manager. I almost forgot about that. So there's fuel on board, payload, so it's at 92, 795. Now remember, because we used this this guy here, so it's off just a little bit. So we can actually do it. So we can do the payload, but we can't do the fuel. Oh, no, it says we can do the fuel, can't we? Let's try and do it. 91,600 is the payload. 91,600. I forgot about this. 91,600. That's our payload. And then our fuel. So block fuel is 39. What was it again? I got to find it now. Block fuel 39,831. I wanted to go with just a couple thousand more. So I'm going to go with 41,831. 41,831. And that should put our zero fuel weight only 2,000 pounds over what we were expecting, right? Because I added 2,000 pounds of fuel. So I'm going to execute that. Running. See, now it's loading it, right? And see the center of gravity and all that changing. That's kind of cool. It's taking a minute. This is the first time I actually did this. I played with just about everything in here, but I didn't actually do this. So cool, works for me. So 91,600, bam, there it is. And I don't think if we execute again, that's going to cause a problem. Okay, so there's your payload manager, IRS menu. You can, it's aligned now, but you can change it real time, so on and so forth. And if you're in a hurry and you've got it set to real time, but you're like, I need to do it now, just click on force align and it'll align it right now. LNAV debug I haven't had to mess with. And then also in configuration, there's where you do your sim brief. I'm not going to show you mine. But it's going to require both your SimBrief login and your pilot ID, so just keep that in mind. We can switch units here, but that doesn't switch our ATC. Remember that. So I can switch to metric on here easily enough, but if we want our ATC callouts to be in metric, we got to do that as well. And flying from the US to Canada, if the Canada is running on metric and we're running on imperial down here in the US, then we would. That's kind of interesting, right? So something to think about. What else? I didn't mess with that either. So there you go. That's your basics. So I'm not going to go into too much detail there. That's not what we're trying to do here. So there's the basics of our route. We go to performance initialization. So our zero fuel weight has changed as a result. So I'm good with that. Center of gravity, cruise altitude is going to be flight level 380. Go to our thrust limitation page, and this is what it's got us set for. Okay, now whether or not that's accurate, I don't know. I will tell you this, I cannot get the toga to work in this right now. So current outside air temperature, we don't need to put in a select temperature here. That's a D rate, right? So right now this is showing N1 to 89.6%. I'm going to tell you right now, this thing's got some power. If I do that, then it's N1 at 99.6, and then I could do climb 1. So I can actually do them separately here. So I could do a full climb. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to go with its suggested takeoff 1, a D rate of 10%. I'm good with that for now. So let's do that. And we're going to go flaps 10. And we don't need to put anything in here. Now, center of gravity trim, it's not giving me the trim. So not sure. I'm sure there's a right way to do that, but unfortunately the takeoff data request doesn't work right now. We do need to listen to the ATIS before we verify that that's the runway. So let's do that real quick since I'm busy talking anyway. And I know it's a little hard to see on this screen because of the sunshine over there, but right up here is VHF. You click on that, and then if you just look at your chart, the ATIS is on 134.025. So 134, you have to put the decimal in there, 0.025. Okay, and then I'm just going to put that in here. It puts it in the standby. Now we'll switch it over and listen to the ATIS.
Denver Airport information, India 1500 Zulu. Wind 192 at tree 2. Visibility 10. Sky condition, no clouds below 12,000. Temperature 29er. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.01. ILS runway 16 left, ILS runway 16 right, ILS runway 17 left, and ILS runway 17 right in use. Landing and departing runway 16 left, runway 16 right, runway 17 left.
Okay, that's enough of that. We got what we need out of that. I'm going to tell you right now we're going to take runway 17 right. Just out of curiosity, I'm just going to glance real quick. So the weather, it says on SimBrief, or not SimBrief, SimToolkit Pro, it says the wind is 200 at 19 knots, and in the sim it says 192 at 32. So that's a pretty significant difference there. So yeah, we're going to take runway 17 right because that just happens to be the closest runway to us. So that's what we're going to roll with. So that won't be an issue. So we'll jump back up here and we'll go into our departure and arrival. I'm not going to put it in on that page. Just real quick, let me show you. I'm not going to put it in on the takeoff page. It should automatically change it if I go departure, arrival, departure. Now, we're scheduled for the DDERTH 1 departure. I'm going to tell you right now, watch what happens here. So when I change this to runway 17 right, we got to go next page. DDERTH is not going to be, never mind. It wasn't, I couldn't find it yesterday. Alright, so we're going to stick with that. Never mind. I'll stop talking about that. Execute that. Check our legs for route discontinuities, right? So we've all seen these before. Let me jump to a view. Let me switch these guys over. So when you do that, if you got to take this systems page off. Just click systems again. That gives us a full view here, and then click on plan, right? It's your normal plan mode. We've all seen this. Oh, my mouse. I got to get a new mouse. That's all there is to it. We'll zoom it out a little bit. We're going to zoom it out a little more. So there's vectors, right? And then it's got to go up here to YAMI. That's our discontinuity right there, right? So we're taking off on 17 right, and then it's vectors, and then up to YAMI. So there's two ways of dealing with that. We've talked about this before. I won't go into great detail on it. I'm going to scroll all the way back down here. I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but there's two ways of dealing with that. Number one is to just leave it as is for the moment, and then after we get airborne, we would get vectors from ATC. They'd basically get us over there, and then we'd go on course. For us, what we're going to do is once we get airborne, then we'll just select YAMI and we'll replace vectors with YAMI, and it'll, from wherever we're at that point when we execute it, it will take us from there to YAMI and we'll go on course. So that's the way that I'm going to deal with that. I'm good with it. We can do, you can't request the wind, and you can't put any wind in. All the boxes are blue right now, so it just is what it is. So we can go back, route, performance initialization, that's one way to get there, or you can go to index and takeoff page, and so there it is, runway 17 right now. So by doing that before we did our V-speeds, now we should have accurate V-speeds. Now here's another thing I've noticed about this. So now we've got our V-speeds on there. If you look up here, it says no V-speeds, which is a little frustrating, but it will call out V1 at the proper V1 speed. So essentially what we're going to have to do for now is we're just going to have to remember that VR, or rotate, is at 147. So when it calls out V1, we're looking for 147 to rotate, because it doesn't call out rotate. Again, it's still obviously a work in progress. I'm not complaining right now because it's so much better than it was before. I have no complaints. You can go to the next page here, acceleration height, 1,500 feet. And then if you go to the VNAV page, this is where you see transition altitude right now is set to 5,000. We want to set that to 18,000. There we go. And then your speed transition is 250 knots at or below 10,000 feet. That's the way it is here. So we're good on that. And then again, if you want to just go back, well, you do have 3 pages here if you want to see them. This is your cruise page. And then you've got your descent page as well, and we can't really do anything with any of this, so I'm not too worried about it. Go back to the index, back to the takeoff page. That's the page we want to be on. That takes care of setting up the FMC, and I'll be back momentarily. We'll get the rest of the aircraft set up and push and start. Alright, so now we need to finish all of our before start items here. We want to get the MCP set up now. Just real quick, if I jump over to Navigraph, let me just unpin the... I had an extra departure chart just in case. So when I'm just glancing, and of course we're going to do a taxi and departure briefing, but just glancing, we don't have... The only altitude restriction we have at or below is 10,000 feet at Mugby. Everything else is at or above. What's interesting about this is, as I'm looking at this departure... okay, so it is vectors, and then it's Mugby, Wazy. Okay, so you guys are going to see this in a few minutes, but let me just show you how you can add some waypoints in here, because there's actually, so it is vectors, but then it's not straight to Yami. There are actually other waypoints in there that we would probably use. As I'm looking at this, yeah, so my apologies. We could use them. It's vectors. It is vectors off of 17 right. So we may or may not use them. But I'm just going to put one of them in there to show you. Okay? Just in case you guys haven't seen it in a while. And that's going to be Mugby. M-U-G-B-E. So literally you can just type it in there. M-U-G-B-E. Mugby. And when I type that in there, okay, selected line cannot be deleted. I'm not trying to delete it. Let me try putting it in. Sometimes if you just put it in next to that one, it'll work. That's interesting. There we go. Mugby's in Yami. And so what? So again, the route discontinuity, what I should be able to do is take this one and put it here. Right? Now we're not going to execute that right now. I'm going to erase it. So we're going to do that once we're airborne, because we are going to go on vectors first. But there's Mugby, Wazy, Lodge, Rinker, there's a whole bunch of them, and then out to Yami. But they're all for different runways. Our runway is vectors, and so we're going to stick with vectors. But we do need to be at or above 10,000 when we get to Mugby. So if we go /10,000 and then A, that means at or above. Let's see if it lets us put it in. It does. So 10,000 at or above at Mugby, and then Yami is 17,000 at or above. That's what the A means. If it's at or below, then you would put a B at the end of it. Simple as that. Okay, we're tracking on that, right? Let's finish getting everything set up. So I'm not going, because we need to be above, and there's nothing that says we need to be, actually, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Mugby is 10,000 at or below. I was just thinking to myself, why did I do it that way? So 10,000 at or below at Mugby. There we go. So that changes it. So it shouldn't go above 10,000 feet before crossing over Mugby, right? Great. Now, here's the kicker. When we set this up, there's 2 ways of doing it. I've talked about this before. We can either set this to 10,000 so that we don't go over it, or we can just let the FMC do its thing. In the real world, you're going to set this to your first given altitude restriction, right? So ATC is going to say climb and maintain whatever, and that's what you're going to set this to. That's great. We're not doing that. We're going all the way to 380. We're going to see if the FMC does its job properly, because that's what we want it to do, and there's one of us doing the job of 2. Okay, flight directors can both come on. Auto throttle is already on. LNAV, VNAV can both be armed. So this is the auto throttle arm. again, for whatever reason, I couldn't get the toga to work, even though it is armed down here. So we'll see if it works today, and then we'll go from there. The runway heading is going to be, let me just double check it here, 173 degrees. Always a good idea to put that in here. I usually don't, but we should. So 173 degrees, there's that. And then we don't need to put in course or anything like that. Our altimeter is 3001, so we can crank that boy up. I don't know if you can see it down there. Let me try to zoom in where you can see it a little better. So here's our altimeter. That's 29908. We need to go to 3001. That's 2. We need 1. There we go. Altimeter set to 3001. The TCAS on this guy is actually built into these things, right? So you go to transponder, and we'll just squawk 2336 because that's the number I like to squawk when I'm not using ATC, which is pretty much always. You can ident, and then TCAS, it doesn't let you change these right now, so it just is what it is. But then the TCAS is on, and then all you need to do is select traffic right here, and then it will show us the traffic on there. I know that for a fact. Also, just as a quick note, you've got the menu option here. You can select and deselect traffic there if you want. Airports, waypoints, some of these work, some of these don't right now, but it's there, you can use it, and there you have it. Alright, what else we need to get set up here? We need to go ahead and get the APU on. So if we jump up top here, and again there's 2 of these views, so APU on and then start. Right now you see how the pressure light went away on this guy. Okay, so we're just going to turn the pumps on right now. Alright, and that's just the way I do it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm not saying real world that's the right way to do it. That's just the way I tend to do it. Alright, now I want to hop back down here, and if you click on system, what you should see, never mind, the APU now shows it spooling up. It did not do it last time. It would not show the APU spinning up. So that's funny to me. But now it's showing it at 100 RPMs, which means the APU is good to go. So, boy, that thing started up quick too, didn't it? So now we can go APU gens on, which means external power can come off. All those remain available because they were available automatically or whatever. And then what else? We got seatbelt signs here. Those are going to be, those are actually up top on this one. I'm thinking of the 747 for whatever reason. Seatbelt signs right here. So seatbelt signs are on. Fuel quantity has been checked. Engine throttles are idle. Engine area is clear. We can jump back down to a better view here. Auto brake setting needs to go to RTO at this point. It's down to there. Yaw damper is on. Those are up top. Where's yaw damper at? I saw it already too, and then I spaced out on it. I hate yaw dampers. I really do. I really hate, for whatever reason, the yaw damper is the one thing, the yaw damper setting is the one thing I always struggle to find. Heading reference, you know what, I don't know where it is off the top of my head, and I'm not going to sit here and look for it all day. I know it's on because I saw it once already. So, again, I apologize, but I'm not going to sit here and look for the yaw dampers all day. Eventually I'll find it, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, duh, there it was. Yeah, trim air, that's packs. This is all power over here. One of you's probably seen it already, and you're like, it's right there. But I can't see it right now for whatever reason. But anyway, I know the yaw damper's on because I saw it, but for whatever reason I can't see it now. So there you have it. Yaw dampers are on. Bear with me a little bit. Fly-by-wire setting is check. I don't know how you check that. Hydraulic pumps, you can't actually do anything with the hydraulic pumps on this particular aircraft. Again, if we jump up here, so this is your electrical, air conditioning, where's hydraulics right here. So you see you can't actually change any of these. Right? It's nice that all of these things are labeled because, you know, every once in a while I have to go back and look at it again. You can't do it. That's probably the fly-by-wire right there, right? Primary flight computers. That would be my guess. And again, same thing. I should be able to find the yaw dampers because there's should be like labeled, yeah, flight control surfaces, but I don't think that's yaw dampers. If somebody knows, Somebody knows. Somebody tell me down in the comments, because otherwise, like I said, we'll be here all day. Anyway, pressing on AC packs 1 and 2. You can't do anything with the packs on this either, so it doesn't let you actually select these, which is, you know, unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm sure eventually we'll be able to. Equipment, cooling, fuel pumps are all on. Startup clearance requests, we've already taken care of that. That takes care of all of our before startup, and yeah, that's all of our, I was going to say and pre-flight, but we already did pre-flight. So that's all of our before startup. I'll be back in just a second. We'll push and start. Alright, so I looked for a couple minutes because the yaw damper thing was driving me nuts and I still can't find them. So I really think that it's the flight control surfaces being on normal. I think that's how it works in this one. Obviously, I could be super wrong about that, but that's what I'm going with for now. So at this point, we are ready to push and start. Now I'm going to use this pushback toolbar again. And we're going to pre-plan our pushback, only this time what I'm going to do a little different. I've noticed this has been helping. I'm not going to zoom out, so we're just going to scroll it back, and we're going to go to this center line out here. So let's crank it over here, and we can move it this way a little bit. That'll just make the pushback a little easier. And so doing it this way, I haven't had it crash on me as much. So there we go. Click it just the one time, hit enter, and now it's ready. Now I'm going to tell you right now, because we don't have a tug there, we're probably not going to hear from anybody. So it is what it is. Let's request pushback. Actually, real quick, before I request pushback, I want to make sure all my doors are closed. So where's doors? There's doors. They're all set to armed, so we're good on that. Status page, electrical page, hydraulics page, which is inoperable, fuel page, air conditioning, all of that stuff is good. A couple of these still don't work. You can do things on the IFAS display, like changing your barometric pressure and stuff like that, so that's kind of cool. You can change your minimums on here as well. Flight control surfaces. So this is where flight control mode is set to normals. To me, I think maybe that's the yaw dampers. Somebody probably knows, so let me know down in the comments. And then you got your gear page as well. What we actually want is our engine page, and to do that we want to swap these two and turn systems off, and then hit engines again. It gives us all that information there, and then if we swap them again, see, we get this one here. So I really like that feature. That is something that is available in like the 737 and stuff. We just don't ever use it. So anyway, let's go ahead and request pushback. Give it a few seconds, but like we should have probably already heard something. So we'll release park and brake. Now watch, that hold button comes up. I showed you guys this I think once before. So we'll just click on the hold button. I'm going to shrink this down for now so that I don't have to look for it later. And the pushback has begun. And so we're just good on that. So now we're going to roll right into the engine start. Now remember, you can't do anything with the packs, but everything for the packs is auto anyway. So when we go to do the engine start here, we can start both engines at the same time if we want. We're not going to though. We're just going to click that over to start and then come back here, and you don't even need to wait for anything. Just click that to the on position or the run position, and you can see the engine is starting up without any issue. I do love the moving map feature on here. It does work, just so that you know. And one thing that makes it really handy, I'm just zooming out a little here, is if I zoom this out, see, there's our runway right there. So if we're not sure where to go, we can use this to guide us on the taxi, which is pretty great as well. So engine number 2 is starting up right now. We're going to let that finish doing its thing. I'm going to finish doing the pushback, and then I'm going to come back on here. We're going to take care of our after start before taxi checklist and then taxi out. Alright, beautiful. The engines are both running. Let's take care of our after start and before taxi checklist. The parking brakes are set. The fuel quantity is checked. Taxi lights do need to come on. Now this is set up just like it is on the Salty, where I gotta flip the right switch. So there's the taxi lights. Strobe lights, the way I hear it from some guys is those don't go on until you're on the runway, but I'll forget. So I'm turning them on right now. Navigation lights are on. Those were already on. Instrument displays are checked. Taxi clearance request, which we have. Flight director's on, and then parking brakes off to begin the taxi. Now, of course, what we're going to do as we start to taxi out is we're going to take care of our departure, our taxi and departure briefings. Let me just a little jump here. There we go. So let's go ahead and take the parking brakes off. If you hear that really loud noise in the background, that is my 2-year-old son, almost 2 years old, dragging a chair across the hardwood floor in the kitchen above me. So I apologize if that's too loud for you, but that's what that is. So I think the only thing I dislike here, so the HUD does work, but the view for the HUD is like right here. Yeah, I don't typically fly with the HUD, to be honest with you. I don't know, maybe I'll fly with it, maybe I won't. When we're landing, I'm not real comfortable flying with a HUD in these particular aircraft. Let's start taxiing while I'm talking. Not really that comfortable with flying with the HUD in civilian aircraft. I don't know. I have no problem when I do like DCS World and I fly military aircraft. It's not a problem. But in here, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to suit me very well. Let's go ahead and, this is just for takeoff preparation. I'm going to arm the spoilers, and then of course we're going to start bringing in the flaps. It's going to be flaps 10. So there's flaps 5, and then there's flaps 10 there, and you can see that right there. And so my reason for bringing up the HUD was because it's a little hard to see those. But you can't see your flaps setting in here, right? Still says no V-speed in here. Like, I get that it would probably be handy, but it's, I don't know. I just don't know if that's going to work for me. But anyway, let's go ahead and take care of our taxi and departure briefings. So you already got a bit of a preview of the taxi. We're over here at this terminal, and we're going to runway 17 right. So it's pretty straightforward. We pushed out to the middle of the apron here. It's just going to be taxi straight. I'll zoom in for you a little. Taxi straight across to, this is Mike here. So straight across to Mike, and then up to Mike 10, and hold short of runway 17 right. It doesn't get much easier than that. We've already looked at the ATIS 134.025. Clearance is already taken care of at 18.75 ground. So when you look at this, this is from the tower right here, right? So north, east, south, west. And so we're going to be on the east side, so we'd be 121.85. And then tower for runway 17 right is 133.3. And of course, you still got ramp control for concourse A, B, C, and cargo ramp, and so on. So there's a lot going on. If we ever get ATC working properly, that'd be pretty fantastic. We could actually do a lot of stuff there. But anyway, moving over here to our departure briefing. Again, pretty straightforward stuff. There is no narrative. Well, there is a narrative. It's for us right here. Climb on heading you probably can't read that. Climb on heading 173 to 5,934 feet, then on heading 173, or as assigned by ATC, expect vectors to cross Yami. Now what I did, we already talked about the vectors. What I did is I added Mugby in there, which is the adder below 10,000. So we'll be on vectors here, and then shortly after takeoff, we'll go ahead and replace vectors with Mugby. We'll let the LNAV and the VNAV do its thing, and it should keep us adder below 10,000 until we cross Mugby, and then from Mugby, it's a straight shot for us up to Yami, and then out to D-Dearth, or whatever that's supposed to be from there, and then on course. Pretty straightforward as far as all that's concerned. That is your taxi and departure briefing. Alrighty, holding short of runway 17 right at this point. Taking a look at our pre-takeoff checklist. Takeoff flaps are set at 10. Let me just get to a view that you can see that better here. So there's takeoff flaps right there set to 10. Speed brakes, it says retracted. Now I know that like in the 737 now, it doesn't do the whole, arming the spoilers. So maybe we're not supposed to arm them. I don't know. I'm going to try it with them unarmed and see if we get any takeoff config warnings. Instruments are checked and set. Landing lights need to come on. We'll do that as we come out on the runway. I already turned the strobe lights on, and then of course the parking brakes have to come off because you can't move around with those. And then you've got your takeoff checklist itself, which has your 80 knot call out, V1, VR, V2, positive climb, gear up, all of that. And we're ready for all of that. So I'm going to jump back to this view here, maybe not. Let's try it again. Oh, it's not liking me right now. So I zoomed this in a little bit, but I also had this guy up a little. So I don't know what you guys think of that view. That's not too bad if you ask me. We do want to switch these guys over here. This way we get a better view of any traffic coming in, anything like that. We can zoom this out. That's 10 nautical miles. I'll leave it at that. So there is an aircraft coming in. It looks like he's headed for our runway. Let me get the track IR on here. Maybe a little jump. Just a little one. Yeah, he's on approach for our runway. So I'm going to let him come on in. And I'll probably just fast forward through this section here, and then if I can keep my head from moving around, and just keep an eye on him there. Let's do this. Let me turn the track IR off for a minute. There we go. Jump to whatever view here and fast forward. Alright then, let's line up and wait before anybody else shows up. Track IR coming back on, little jump, there it is. Get these landing lights on. Runway turn off lights coming on, a little power coming in too. Oh yeah, that's right, they were already on because of the taxi lights. Alright, let's get this bird out here. I did put the trim, the nose up trim at 9.78. We are relatively heavy, so we'll see how that works out for us. Doesn't look like there's anybody. Well, there is somebody else, maybe. No, he's climbing. So nobody else on approach to our runway, so that's good. So we'll line up and wait, and of course, in typical flight simulator fashion, they take forever to get off of the runway. I have no idea why. A little extra thrust to get her to make the turn here. It doesn't like making really sharp turns at all. We got tons of runway to work with though, so I'm not too worried about it. Just trying to get her lined up. Doesn't want to move. There we go. Yeah, we're probably a little bit left of center, but that's alright. Okay, so now I just gotta wait for him to get off the runway. I don't know why the AI traffic takes like a year and a half to get off the runway. It's absolute insanity. So we're going to see if the Togo works on this one. It should be 80-something%, right? I'm not going to move the page back, but just remember that rotate is at 147. It will call out V1 at around 132, and then 147 is going to be our rotate speed. So we'll see how it goes here. He is still on the runway. I don't know if you can see him, but I can, just barely, because the draw distance is pretty far out there. But he's literally taxiing at like 5 knots down to the end of the runway right now. And now he's out of sight for me now, but I have no idea whether or not he's still there. I'm going to give it a few more seconds, and then we're going to roll. Yeah, it's just madness. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in the thrust about 60%, give or take. Let's take, there's 60, and let's try the Toga mode here. So I clicked it, nothing happening. So we'll do it ourselves, and it looks like we're going to be full thrust takeoff. And it looks like he's just getting off the runway down there. Alright, let's listen to the call outs. Remember 147 is rotate. There's 80 knots. Checked. There's V1. Oh, it's drifting. Rotate. Quite the crosswind there. Positive rate of climb gear coming up. And this thing will climb, let me tell you. And it'll climb fast. So I'm just following my flight director for the moment. We probably could have used a little less nose up trim. That's alright though. I'm just trying to bring it back down a little. It's auto trimming right now is what it's doing, because it's fly-by-wire. So I have to actually push the nose over and then kind of hold it there until it trims itself out. I've learned that. Now I don't know how realistic that is, but I have learned it. So we're at or above the altitude we needed to be at that first waypoint out there, so no problem there. Let me just, I got a little leg itch there, sorry about that. So if you look down here, you can see we're not quite to the flaps 5 setting there yet. So once we get to that's the minimum maneuvering speed for flaps 5. So once we're above that, then we can go to flaps 5. And that's why it wants me to bring the nose down a little bit more. It wants to get that speed up. So we're just coming above that now. So now I go to flaps 5. And then it's the same thing for flaps 1. And once we cross this waypoint here, let's just set this to the legs page. We'll select it now. So MUGB is going to replace vectors, and then we'll execute that once we cross this waypoint up here. And we're just watching the flaps. I'm going to go ahead and turn the autopilot on at this point. Okay, so the airplane's flying itself now. And we're about to cross that waypoint. I'm going to go ahead and execute it. There we go, and it should start the turn. We'll go to flaps 1. Make sure that went to flaps 1. It did. And then same thing, there should be a flaps up indicator. It doesn't look like it's coming up though. So not a problem there. There's 10,000 feet. Now we're supposed to be at or below 10,000. Let's see if it holds it. If not, then well, we've learned something, haven't we? Turn those guys off. So it's still climbing. And it's climbing pretty quick too. So let's get the flaps up. Yeah, it's not going to maintain that. So it just completely bypassed the 10,000 at or below for MUGB. Now it'll be interesting to see if it tries to descend, because that's always a little obnoxious when it does stuff like that. Hopefully it doesn't. But it is what it is. That's where we're at this point. Let me take the track IR off here. There we go. Track IR is off. Let's take a look at our after takeoff checklist. The auto throttle says 200 knots. So that's this guy here, right? You can hit auto throttle, but we don't need to because the FMC is controlling the throttle now that we're on autopilot. Taxi and landing lights are off. Flap lever is all the way up. Autopilot is on. And the route manager, whatever that is active. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. And that means now that our after takeoff checklist is done, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alright folks, we're 70 something miles from our top of descent here. We're going to take a look at our arrival and approach briefings. Now, I do want to go ahead and just throw the disclaimer out there right now that this of course is subject to change because the weather might turn out to be different than we're expecting. But I'm hoping the weather is at least close enough that we don't have to make any major changes here. The good news is the arrival stays pretty much the same up to egret, whether we're going to be landing on runways 8 or 26. So if we get down here around Pizza, I don't know how you say it, and we find that we can pick up the ATIS and it's changed, we might be able to. We will make changes, but we might be able to do it without having to go into a hold. Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, so as of right now, our arrival is the Grizz 7, arrival for runway 8 left. That's our That's our planned arrival, or our planned runway, which you'll see here shortly. So the ATIS is going to be 124.6 airport elevation at 13 feet. We're going to come in out here at Me Tower. Our top of descent is just beyond that, down to Ilsa, and then Pizze, which is at or above 14,000, and then down here to Egret, which is between 10 and 12,000 feet. Now from there, assuming everything stays the same, it's down to Tatgo at 10,000 at or above. As we cross over the Vancouver VOR, it's 8,000 at or above, and then down here to NACMA, 3,000 at or above, and then it's vectors from there, which would take us on to our approach. So again, if all things stay the same, we'll be flying the ILS runway 8 approach. Again, the ATIS stays at 124.6, radio at 23.15, arrival. Not sure what inner outer is, but we'd be handed off either way, so it'd be one of these 4 frequencies here. Tower for us would be on the south side. It looks, well, we're landing on the north side, so it'd probably be 119.55. Same thing for ground. Localizer frequency is 110.55. I'll show you how to put that in here in a minute. Final approach course 083 degrees with glide slope intercept at Bexham at 1,290 feet. ILS decision altitude, that's the minimum start down below. Airport and touchdown zone elevation are the same. Minimum safe altitudes in the area 3,800, 67, 7,000, and 5,000. And what else we got here? And you can see those down here too. I don't know if I pointed that out before. It's 3,800, 6,700, 7,000, 5,000. And that makes sense, right? The mountains are on this side. There's no mountains over here. Alright, missed approach procedure. Climb to 420 feet, heading 083. That's the approach heading. Then climbing left turn to 3,500 feet, and you're turning to 051 degrees. Intercept the inbound 264 degree radial to YPK. Go out to the YPK VOR and hold. Transition altitude is 18,000 feet. We see what that looks like here. There's a turn out, and then intercept the 264 degree radial. Go out there and hold. 3,000 feet for our glide slope intercept. We'll keep that in mind here briefly. PAPI lights on the left hand side. And for decision altitudes, if well, we're doing ILS DME or ILS radar. We're doing both really. But if the HILS lights are out, which it says it's ALSF lights here, so I'm not sure the difference. But either way, if those are out, then it's 250 feet. If they're not, then it's 200 feet, and we're good to go. So that takes care of our arrival and our approach briefing. Now, just pop a couple things up on this other screen here. Top of descent for us is 40 nautical miles, so let's get that started. So again, we'll look at altitudes here briefly in just a second. For the moment, I'm going to put this at 3,000. And then we'll talk about this. So there's, nope, that's 2,000. There we go, 3,000 feet right there. So it should start the top of descent on its own. Real quick, our checklist, anti-ice as required. It's on auto. Nav radios, we're going to show you how to set those here in a minute. Course settings, same thing. I'm going to show you how to set that here in a second. Fuel quantity checked. One thing you can do is hop down here. So we're looking like we're going to have 15.7 when we get to Vancouver. It's kind of funny because a while ago it was at 5.7 or something like that, but we've had more of a tailwind than a headwind most of the way, and so that's going to save us some fuel obviously, and that's why it's gone up quite substantially. Auto brake setting as required. We've got a lot of runway to work with, so we don't need heavy auto brakes. We're going to go auto brakes 3 is what I'm going to go with. And I think that'll work out just fine. And then approach briefing, which we've just taken care of. So with that said, I want to take a look real quick at how you set this up. So if you go to your nav radio, you can either click here and that'll take you there, or you can click on the nav button and that'll take you there. You need to put your frequency in here. Don't forget you have to add the decimal, so 110.55, and put your course in here. I'm not sure what control is. I'm going to turn it on and we're going to see how it goes. But that's it. That's all you got to do to set that up. And then let me just change the view here. On where is, you should have, Well, so I'm used to the 737 layout where one of these knobs allows you to change between the approach mode and the you know, map mode or whatever, right? But that doesn't appear to be an option here. We can turn terrain on if we want. You can also turn it on by clicking this guy up here. So we got terrain and traffic. I do not believe the weather radar works on this. I've had it on and it doesn't make any difference, so I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. Other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go here. There was something I wanted to... Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you down here. So going to our legs page really quick. So I have already added the approach. If you're not sure how to do that, it's departure arrival. Click on arrival, select your arrival and transition, select your approach and transition, which we can't even select a transition here. And then you execute all that and it goes in there. On the legs page, we see MeTow, Isla, Pizza, Egret, and then I added TATGO in there. It wasn't in there. And then, so originally when I put, that's kind of interesting. Originally when I put TATGO in there, I had put in there between 10 and 12,000, but it's excuse me, I had a hiccup there. It's not in there now, so whatever. It is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. But we'll go from TATGO, and then we didn't put the YVR right in there. I didn't think that was worth the effort, to be honest with you. So from there to NACMA, and then it goes out to vectors, and then of course we can do the same thing here. So once we get out there and we're on vectors and we're ready to go ahead and circle back towards the approach, assuming that ATC had given us the approach or clearance for the approach, then we'll just select this, put it where vectors is, execute that, and off we go, and it'd be pretty straightforward from there. I will say this will be the last time I do a flight in this aircraft at cost index of 500. Quite frankly, we could be going substantially faster than this. I mean, we're already going really fast. This airplane moves, right? But we're at 0.850, and we could be probably, I don't know what the max is on this, but we could be going quite a bit faster. So just something to keep in mind. We probably won't run the cost index that low anymore unless we're doing a flight that's just super crazy long. So we should be at top of descent here any moment. 2 nautical miles. So I just want to make sure it starts descending on its own. It looks like it's already starting to be honest with you. No, it's just fighting to maintain 380 because of the wind change. There's top of descent though. Does it start to descend? Just give it a second, make sure it's actually descending, and it is. That's fantastic. Last thing we want to do before we wrap it up here, go to your initial reference page, go to your approach page, and then you choose your VREF. So if we want to do full flaps, it's going to be 141 knots. If you want to do flaps 25, it'd be 143, and then flaps 20 would be 157. The wind is iffy. I'm going to actually go with full... No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do flaps 25, 143. It's a difference of 2 knots. So I'm good with that. So then you just line select it and then put it down there. And now it's set. You're good to go. And that's it. This gives us our runway length here, both in feet and meters. Something to keep in mind. Landing reference is on QNH right now. And there is one last thing I want to do before I let you go here, and I just want to see if we can pick up the ATIS yet. So just go to menu, VHF. ATIS is on 124.6. I want to see if I can do it just like that without putting anything else. Yeah, it does the 00 for me. Let's see if we can hear it. Yeah, I didn't think so. We're still pretty far out. So I'm just going to leave it on there for now. When it pops in, I'll verify the weather, and then I'll be back on here when we're getting close to the approach. Alrighty, folks, we just crossed the Vancouver VOR, or YVR, and we're essentially on our downwind right now. Let me just play the ATIS for you real quick so you can see that we're on the right track.
Vancouver Airport information, Yankee 1800 Zulu. Wind 0904 at 15. Visibility, greater than 20 miles. Sky condition, ceiling 1,800 feet broken. Temperature 12. Dew point 10. Altimeter 30.16. ILS runway 26 right and ILS runway 26 left in use. Landing and departing runway 8 left and runway 8 right. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Yankee.
So I'm assuming that even though we're landing on runway 8 left, that the ILS is married to 26 right. And that's why they say ILS 26 left and right are in use, but we're actually landing on runways 8 left and 8 right. I'm assuming that's the way it is. If somebody knows otherwise, as always, please let me know down in the comments there. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let me turn the track IR off here real quick. Take a look real quick at our approach checklist. Landing lights are on. Altimeter is set 3016. Navigation radios are tuned. I've shown you how to do that already. The approach localizer is not active. We're going to flip it around. We're going to use that same trick I showed you before, where you just select the waypoint you want, replace vectors with it, and then it'll LNAV us over there. So we'll do that here shortly, and then it just talks about speeds for flaps and so on. And our speed should be coming down. We're at 240 right now. Our speed should be coming down pretty soon. We'll see how that goes here. Auto brake setting as required. We're doing auto brakes 3 on this one. Speed brakes can be armed. That's just a hotkey for me. Now, let's play a little game. All right? Who can tell me down in the comments below what's different from earlier to now and why it's probably different? Not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily know why, but why you think maybe it's different. And I'll give you one little hint. It's something that you would not experience in the real world, but you do experience in a flight simulator. So that's the challenge in the comments down below, and kudos to anyone who gets it right. And if we get enough people playing this little game here, then maybe in the future we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it with some sort of prize attached to it. That is, if y'all are interested in that sort of thing, and maybe you're not. I don't know. I'm gonna turn track IR back on. A little jump here. My track IR did go kaput earlier. I had to do all kinds of stuff with that, but I got that working right. The little trick I was telling you about. So what we're gonna do is MCAM, and then we're just gonna replace vectors with it like that, and then we'll execute it, and it'll take us right on over there. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna execute it right now. Bam, and that'll still take us to NACMA, and then over to MCAM, which we're starting to turn right now, and that should get us set up nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and take over the speed here because we're going to need to be at I think it's 162. Let me go init ref here, approach page. I'm sorry, 126. Yeah, I wasn't even close. So we're going to start bringing this speed down. Let's get down to 200 knots here to start with. I hate when it does that. 200 knots. And we need to go flaps 1, 210. There we go. And now I'm gonna have to wait till it comes out of the turn, and then I'm gonna center up my track IR again, and it's gonna be off center. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just been acting all bonkers with me lately. Go to flaps 5 there. Okay, we're out of the turn. Now watch, center it. It didn't do it near. It's been giving me fits for a while now, but it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. As we start to make the turn here, so we need to be at 3,000 feet. We're at 3,800 right now. I think we're going to be fine getting there. The aircraft's on VNAV speed, so I'm just going to put a little spoilers out there. It's going to make it descend a little quicker. Let's knock out that last 700 feet. Because it's really, at MCAM, we're supposed to be at 3,000, but we really need to be there by the time we get to Dulce, because that is going to be our glide slope intercept. So there we go. Let's turn this to 185 now. 85. There we go. And let that speed start to bleed off. And as we're making this turn, let's go ahead and arm the localizer. It took it right away, and then it automatically arms the approach for you, which is really nice. And you can see the weather is quite ugly. So next setting flaps coming in. Let's go ahead and get that gear down. There we go, and we're a little below the glide slope right now. That's because we're at MCAM and at 3,000 feet, and the glide slope intercept is at Dulce at 3,000 feet. So we're looking good. Take a look at our landing checklist really quick. Auto throttle off. It tells you to turn the auto throttle off at 500 feet AGL, autopilot off at 300 feet AGL, and then it tells you how to, it says reverse thrust on touchdown and speed brakes up full. That's the landing checklist on here. For us, what we really want to do is we want to make sure the gear's down and the flaps are set, and it rotates through. It goes 15, I think 17, 18, then 20. So there's 17, There's 18. And then there's 20. And then we're going to be doing flaps 25. And it's at 126 knots, which is really low, I think, actually. Oh, that has got to be one of the most obnoxious things. So, for some reason, the way it's set up, I have to click it twice. It goes to flaps 30, and then it goes to flaps 25, which is really weird to me. But here's the thing. So, okay, that's the flaps 20 minimum maneuvering speed. So let's bring that speed down a little more. Let's bring it down to 150. Alright, so we're looking good there. So 126 plus 5 is 131. So 131 is going to be our approach speed. We'll go on to, is it, oh, I did zoom in more. I was like, is it just me or do I look zoomed in further? There we go, that's good there. Over there. I like that right there. So we're going to capture the glide slope here, hopefully. Yep, captured the glide slope. That's good. Let's go ahead and rearm the spoilers there. That's just a hotkey that I set for it. You can set it as a hotkey or you can do it however you want. And let's bring it down to 131, which should get us there for a short final. There we go. And let's see, Midva's coming up next, then Bexham, then runway 8, and of course we can't see anything right now, so we definitely need the ILS. So let's see how this works out and listen for our call outs here. Midva's less than a mile away now. A little bit of silence in there. More silence or less silence? What do you guys think? I like to listen to the call outs, but you know, it can get a little boring just staring straight ahead, right? Everything looks good so far. Let's double check. We are at 3016 on there. We're tracking really well on the glide slope and the localizer. The wind is not, at least not at the moment, not quite what they said. They said 094 at 10. Right now we're 120 at 4. So I'm assuming that's going to change as we get closer here. We'll see. Alright, so we're at about 1750 AGL right now. And just continuing on the approach here. Our minimum should be 200 feet. That's what we're looking for right here. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to do a go-round. So I can actually see the runway. I don't know if you can. But there's the, that's the crossing runway. And here's our runway right here. So we're good on that. And actually, I need to make a small adjustment to my view here. Let me just bring that down just a hair because the way we're looking at it there is not quite right. And then just zoom that out just a bit so that we can see better. Track IR back on with a nice healthy jump. I changed up the track IR a little bit, so it's a little weird the way it's working there. Let's go ahead and take the auto throttles off. And then just watch that speed there. So we're trying to get 141, right? Or no, I'm sorry, 131. So get that to come down just a wee bit more. We'll take the autopilot off here shortly. We are flaps 25, but it shows flaps 20. It shows flaps 25, but with them all the way down, which is kind of weird. I'm not really sure if that's the way it's supposed to do it, or if that's just something funky with the setup or what. The wind so far is definitely not what it was said to be. So let's go ahead and take the autopilot off at this point. There we go. I have control of the aircraft. And we're looking good so far. Except that we're drifting to the right a bit there. Not really sure why. Nose it down just a bit. There we go. And I was getting some chop again for some reason. Hopefully that doesn't come back here. Yeah, we ended up a little high for some reason. 500. Actually, we ended up really high, to be honest with you. I think we'll be fine though. Let's listen to the call outs. There we go. That'll set us up nice.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Nice. Minus 206 feet per minute. Not bad. Manual braking, reverse thrust off. We didn't even hardly need it. We were so slow on that approach. How crazy is that? Spoilers deployed like they were supposed to. That's good. I think the auto brakes are not kicking off automatically, so that's all right. There we go. Auto brakes off. Start bringing these flaps up. And just take a look at the airport chart here. See where we're going. Come on. Why is it going so slow? Oh, the brakes were still locked, even though I had pressed the brakes manually. They stayed locked in position. That's why it came to a stop like that. Hey, look, pink airplanes. Imagine that. I think I've already asked you guys in one of the other videos, but if you know how to get rid of pink airplanes, let me know, because they're obnoxious. Let's go ahead and get those landing lights off. I had turned them on, and now they were off. So I guess, okay, they were off. Start up the APU. There we go. Fantastic. And I will see y'all back here shortly when we're parked at a gate and ready to shut things down. So this is the Vancouver Airport add-on that I was telling you about. Now it's always wonderful to come in. You wonder what happened when you pull in. You're pulling into the gate and you see what appears to be a 777 with his gear embedded in the concrete. And his nose gear apparently missing. So there was obviously a tragedy that took place here. I'm not sure what it was, but there you have it. We're going to park next to him because why not, right? Bring a little thrust back in. I already turned the taxi lights off right before I came back on here, just in case you were worried that I was going to blind somebody. But there's nobody standing here anyway, so what difference does it make, right? All right, let's see if we can get her lined up on the center line here. I have no idea where we're supposed to stop. There's nobody here to help us. That should technically be pretty close to center line, I think. A little further up here. And we should be good right about there. Stop. There we go. Let's go ahead and get that parking brake on. Bam. Track IR coming off. No jump this time. There we have it. Okay, let's take a look at our shutdown procedures here. The first thing we need to do is make sure we're drawing power from the APU. Pull that down here. APU gen on. Oh, actually, it was on already. That's nice. We can turn the ground power on as well. Go ahead and turn that off, and I'll just turn the APU off. No, off. There we go. And then jump back here and turn off the engines, of course, is really simple. Just put these to cut off. And that's going to take care of business on that. And what else we have here? So we're already taxied in, sort of although my flaps never came all the way up. Look at that, flaps just stayed there. Maybe my switch is not working right or something. Anyway, flaps might come up now, but I don't think so because we're going to lose hydraulics as we're shutting down. I'm not too worried about it. The parking brakes are set. The engine generators, we can't actually turn those on or off. External power is on. Taxi lights are already off. Engine fuel controls need to be cut off, however. So that's going to be back up here. Here's our fuel controls. All of those off. What else we got here? Seatbelt sign can go off. It's already off. I forgot to turn it back on. Heads-up display. We didn't even use it. But you guys do let me know if you want to see me try and do some flights with that. I will do it if you guys really want me to. It's just not really that great for me. Anyway, that takes care of shutting down the aircraft, and that means that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I did not even come close to the center line there, did I? It seems to be a little different on every aircraft. I mean, technically it is anyway, based on how large the aircraft is, but I feel like on some it's supposed to be the center of your screen, and on others it's a little offset to the right, which is where I would expect it to be anyway. Nonetheless, I had a good time on this flight. I'd be interested to see if anybody knows what was different and if they can tell me why they think it was different. And you know, listen, with this 787 Heavy Division mod, we're going to fly this airplane some more, because even though there's definitely a long way to go, and that's not a dig on them, that's just the reality, but despite there being a long way to go, it is already so much better than the default was that I really have no complaints. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this thing, and we're going to keep flying it. We just are. I hope that you guys enjoyed flying it. I certainly enjoyed the flight. And I think that's it. This flight was by request. If somebody's got a request coming out of CYVR, well, you might be a little late on that. But give me a request for somewhere you'd like to go anyway, and I can do just like I did for this one, where we might hop to one place and then to another, and then we'll get where you want to go, and see it from there. I don't know. We'll figure it out one way or another. We'll get all over the place, right? But that's going to wrap it up for this one, folks. That's it. That's all. And no. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I'm supposed to ask you. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you feel like I earned it, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, click on the little bell, and that lets me know that you appreciate the content. I'm always open to suggestions, comments, concerns, moans, groans, complaints down in the comments section below. Just be nice about it. Otherwise, I'm either going to delete it, or I'm going to say something back that's going to hurt your feelings. No, seriously, just be nice. Let's not have nastiness down in the comment section. It's not a problem I've really run into on this channel, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you. And now that is it. That is all, and no more. So until next time, as always, keep the blue side up, or in this case, the really, really dark gray side, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have an absolutely wonderful day.